So good morning folks, Carl from Australian Work Health and Safety. This morning's presentation is going to be on working from home, which as you know is a fairly important topic at the moment. Briefly, I've got a Master of Science degree, Alcohol Safety Environmental Management, University of Western Sydney, a chartered professional member of the Australian Institute of Health and Safety. That's a professional body that looks after the ongoing development of people in the safety industry. Health and safety principal auditor. I do a little bit of work in noise, a couple of other odds and sods down the bottom. As important as any of those qualifications is the one at the top. I'm a carpet layer by trade. I've spent 16 years on the tools laying the carpet and the underlay, and hopefully I can bring some of that practical knowledge to you folks today. So, for the very first time, many people are going to be working from home. For those who have worked from home before, this is an ideal opportunity for people to have a look over what they're doing and see whether it's effective or not. The main concerns for people working from home is going to be musculoskeletal disorder from poor ergonomics, people lounging in their bean bags, and mental health from isolation. Under health and safety law right across Australia, the words health and safety applied both to the physical as well as psychological well-being. Safety is preventing injury, health is preventing illness. The difference is injuries normally occur from a single event, things like cuts, broken bones, you roll your ankle, you know it caused it. Illness can occur from a single event, such as needle stick injury, but can also occur from multiple exposures that build up gradually over a period of time. And the latency period, latency is a time difference between exposure and symptoms, can be far greater. It can be days, weeks, months, years, even decades. So for people working at home, we need to be thinking about not only what could damage them here and now, but what could also damage them later in life. Things like repetitive strain injuries, carpal tunnel syndrome is an example of that. One of the key points that people need to get into when they're working from home is a routine. The importance of a routine is you're normalising what you're doing. And normalising what you do when working from home should not be underestimated. Normalising is also very good for productivity, which in turn is good for mental health. Productivity and mental health do work hand in glove. Speaking with a teacher recently from the Catholic high school system, their students at the moment during this crisis have been asked to wear their uniforms while they're at home doing computer-based learning. They're running their subjects on the same time frame that they would normally be running them at school. So things like the early morning exercise within the limits of social isolation, personal maintenance, breakfast, comfortable clothing. Make an effort to get out of your pyjamas. Get yourself into a good frame of mind. That's also very important. Like any workplace, you've got to identify hazards. Hazards is anything with the potential to cause harm. In other words, nothing has gone wrong yet, but it could. Now, the benefit of that is that we're not waiting until people are damaged and then being reactive. Hazard identification is about being proactive, to think ahead, to anticipate and effectively manage hazards before they've got the opportunity to cause harm. So some of the key hazards at home are slips, trips and falls, self-explanatory. Ergonomics. Laptops are particularly good for convenience. I use a laptop every day. Ergonomically, they're diabolical. It's impossible to set up a laptop ergonomically for short to medium term use, which is why frequent short breaks are very, very important. So considerations are the poor posture, awkward positions, repetitive movements, overreaching. They can all pile one on top of the other to cause harm to the musculoskeletal system. For manual handling, key point is to maintain the three curves of the spine. Keep your head over your shoulders over your hips. At a desktop, number of points here, knees at 90 degrees, thighs parallel with the floor, nice straight back. Make sure the lumbar support is supporting the lower back, so the lumbar supporting your chair is neither too high nor too low. Having your hips at 90 degrees. As I said, head over shoulder, shoulder over hips. Eyes should be level with the top of the screen, which means when you look at the center of the screen, your head is tilted slightly forward. That is a neutral position because as humans, when we walk along, we look 2 to 3 meters in front of us. So having your head tilted slightly forward is ideal. The model there, you can see it's got a copy holder behind a screen, so she's not doing those repetitive bending movements when doing a lot of transcribing from the desk. Must transfer rate onto the floor. I can't emphasise that enough. So the overall principle of health and safety, of course, is to adapt the workplace to suit the workers, not the workers to the workplace. Physiotherapists often talk about the arc of reach at your workstation. The arc of reach is having the things that you use most frequently closest to you. Might be a keyboard, might be a mouse. Things that you use less frequently, maybe a card file, you have further away. So the dimensions are there for both male and female. Men's 39 to 67 centimetres, from ladies 35 to 60 centimetres. As far as electrical safety goes, remember that 15 people are killed every year in electrical incidents. 11 of those 15 occur at the workplace. Use residual current devices. Now, they became compulsory in Australian homes around about the early 90s for GPOs, which are general power outlets, sockets. RCDs also became compulsory on lighting circuits from 2000. So a lot of houses will be fitted with a residual current device. If not, they can be purchased for well under $100. The benefit of an RCD is that it will turn the electricity off quicker than the electricity needs to damage the body. For general RCDs or lower class RCDs, if there's a 20 milliamp leakage, they'll turn off in 20 milliseconds, which is particularly quick. There's a higher level required when electricity is part of health therapy, like an ultrasound, etc. Not such a big one for us today. One thing with RCDs, they are not a magic bullet. They will only protect people if the person is caught between electricity and earth. They will not protect if you get caught between active and neutral, as explained to me by an electrical engineer. So just because you're using an RCD doesn't mean you can have a cavalier approach to the use of electricity. Check your leads, plugs, have a look. Don't overload circuits. Certainly anything that is yellowed, discoloured should not be used. As far as isolation goes, people are going to cope with this isolation very, very differently, just as we've got very different personality types. Some people will adapt readily, whilst others, whether they realise it or not, are going to be deeply affected by the absence of interaction. Humans are social people. In the main, we group together in suburbs, and that is for work a lot of the time, understand that. But we group in families, we group in sporting clubs, etc. During this time, not so much. So managers and supervisors need to be aware of that and communicate regularly with their workers at home, even if it's got to be scheduled. Not just waiting to speak with workers on work-related matters, but to actually touch base, say good day, and make that human contact. Very important. When you're at home, have a designated workplace. As stated earlier, normalise what you are doing. Avoid distractions, frustrations. That's only going to add to your stress levels, and these are stressful times. That's not going to be easy with children at home. That's accepted, but you still need to have that space. Also, normalise what you do. Avoid distractions. Let people know that you're at work, you've got work hours, you've got responsibilities. Get some communication. Although, as I said, it's going to be difficult with children, it's going to be difficult during the school holidays, but you still need to discuss as a family unit the level of cooperation necessary. And of course, the sooner you get through your day's work, the sooner you're finished for the day. There's a saying in time management, eat your veggies first. One of the first lessons in time management is to deal with the most demanding or complicated tasks first thing while you're fresh. Avoid procrastination, get into it. And give yourself some targets, a set of objectives, get them in a priority order. This gives the motivation, the purpose, so you can keep yourself on track and be productive. And again, productivity is very important to good mental health. Importantly, and this is both for mental well health as well as your musculoskeletal system, take your breaks. Take them as you normally would in your workplace. Don't get caught into the trap of coming into your workspace with a big glass of water and a big coffee, and I'm just going to sit here till I get the job done. Far better to have many short breaks during the day than to simply rely on one long break in the middle of the day. Micro breaks can be as simple as 5-15 seconds, very important. Unless you have to write things down or use a keyboard, you don't necessarily have to sit down to take a phone call. You can take phone calls standing up. But what it does do is get you moving, a different flow of blood, releases some of the pressure on the lower spine. Any problems with equipment, report to your workplace. Don't use broken equipment. Don't try to make do. Get what you need. Now, the courts have made it very, very clear that anybody working from home, the part of the house where they're working from is a workplace, just as any other workplace, which means that workers retain their legal duties under Section 28 of the Act. Reasonable care for your own health and safety, reasonable care for the health and safety of other persons, comply with reasonable instructions, cooperate with policies and procedures. So, things that workers have to do. You still have to report hazards. You still have to report incidents. Do not attend work under the influence of alcohol or drugs. You do that in New South Wales, you're definitely breaking the law. Have a look at the equipment you're using. Do your own inspections. Be aware of your area. So, in closing, folks, this isn't about making things more difficult, making it harder. It is simply about making the workplace as safe as you possibly can when you're working at home, so you don't damage yourself, and when this crisis is over, we can all get back to work bigger and better than ever. So, folks, thank you very much for your time and attention this morning. I hope you got something out of it.